Good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome tonight. My name is Caroline Jean Fernald. I'm Executive Director of Harvard Museums of Science and Culture, a partnership of 4 public-serving museums, where our mission is to foster curiosity and a spirit of discovery in visitors of all ages, enhancing public understanding of and appreciation for the natural world, science, and human cultures. With this mission in mind, I am delighted to welcome our in-person as well as our Zoom audience to tonight's lecture, co-sponsored by the Harvard Museum of the Ancient Near East and Harvard Museums of Science and Culture. We are honored to have with us tonight Nadine Abdel Ghaffar, founder of Cultivator, Art d'Egypte, who will speak about how contemporary art intersects with ancient history in Egypt. HMSC's partnership of museums crosses many disciplines, and we host a wide array of events throughout the year at our 4 museums. On November 16th at 2 p.m., we have a talk at the Harvard Museum of Natural History on how citizen scientists can get involved in discovering new species. On November 21st, we will host our monthly Arts Thursdays event from 5 to 9 p.m., which will be focused on Native American craft brewing in New Mexico. And last but not least, on Sunday, November 24th, we will be hosting family-friendly activities at Harvard Museum of the Ancient Near East from 12 to 2:30. Story time begins at 2. To learn more about additional upcoming museum events, I invite you to visit our website, hmsc.harvard.edu, where you can sign up for our newsletter, or you can follow us on social media, as we'll be announcing our lectures and events for the spring very soon. We are grateful to all our members and supporters for making these programs possible. If you are not yet a member, you still have time to sign up to take advantage of our last member night of the year, which will include a behind-the-scenes tour of the ichthyology collections at the Museum of Comparative Zoology. I will now turn it over to Peter Dermanuelian, Barbara Bell Professor of Egyptology and Director of the Harvard Museum of the Ancient Near East, who will introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Caroline. Welcome to all of you. Delighted to see you here tonight. As the weather gets colder, this is our last Egyptology lecture of this semester, but I promise we'll be back in full force next semester with more. Nadine Abdel Ghaffar is an Egyptian curator, art consultant, and cultural ambassador. In 2016, she established Art d'Egypte, one of the most sought-after multidisciplinary art consultancies in the region, with a twofold mission: to advance the international profile of modern and contemporary Egyptian art, and to help preserve and promote Egypt's rich culture and heritage. Since then, she's curated 4 highly successful exhibitions at stunning heritage sites for Art d'Egypte, showcasing the work of over 60 Egyptian and international artists. Accessibility and democratization of art have always been at the heart of Nadine's vision. By activating public spaces and historic sites with interactive exhibits open to the public, the events attract large numbers of visitors of all ages and from all walks of life, transforming art from an intimidating spectacle to an inclusive community occasion. With the establishment of Cultivator, a global cultural consultancy, Nadine hopes to extend the reach of the arts even further. Thanks to her efforts, Art d'Egypte received UNESCO patronage in 2019 and was invited to participate in Abu Dhabi Art and in Art Genève. Nadine also firmly believes that it is vital to mentor and empower female youth in the region, and one of the core objectives of the firm's activities is to support and exhibit female artists. In recognition of her work, she was recently invited by UN Women to give a talk at the Palais des Nations, Geneva, about Egyptian women and their impact on art in society. In 2021, she was awarded the title Chevalier de l'Ordre des Arts et Lettres by the French government and named one of Egypt's top 50 women. Most recently, she won Woman Entrepreneur of the Year at the 2022 Egyptian Entrepreneurship Awards, in acknowledgement for her outstanding contributions, not only to the Egyptian art scene, but to Egypt as a whole. And tonight we are very lucky to watch her blend the modern and the ancient together at my favorite site, the Giza Pyramids. So without further ado, Nadine.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Dr. Peter Dermanuelian, and thank you, Harvard Museum. So today I'm going to talk about many different subjects and how heritage influences so many people and so many disciplines. And we have an eclectic crowd, so some people from the art world, archaeology, business world. So to start with, a little bit about me. I'm French Egyptian. And well, Peter gave a huge introduction, but let me go through a little story on how I got involved in all of this. So I was born and raised in Alexandria, a city in the north of Egypt by the sea. It's a cultural city that was founded by Alexander the Great. I was very close to a French archaeologist, Jean-Yves Empereur. So as a teenager, I would go on excavation sites, and he's the one that discovered the sunken treasures of Alexandria. So this is a little bit about me. Art d'Egypte was founded in 2016. The idea behind it was to fill a gap or a void. So to give you some context, Egypt is a bit different than Europe or the US. So you guys are lucky because you have museums of contemporary art. You see public art in public spaces. In Egypt, you don't have that. It does not exist. So we have a museum of contemporary art that stopped buying in the 60s. And you don't, as a normal citizen, you cannot go out into public spaces and see art. And I believe that there is something we can do about that. We have an abundance of heritage sites that we have huge areas like UNESCO sites that are actually like historic Cairo is the old capital of Cairo. The whole area, the whole city is a UNESCO heritage site. So in 2017, I decided to go up to the Minister of Antiquities at that time, who was a very open-minded young minister that studied in France. And I told him, look, I believe I can do something and I can merge art and history and heritage. And since at that time, there was the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir, which is an old building from 1902, and I'm sure Peter agrees with me. At that time, all the funding was going to the Grand Egyptian Museum that is soon to open in Egypt. And all the antiquities were moving there, all the funds were moving there. And it's such a beautiful museum. It's still the same until now. So if you go, you'll find the old wooden showcases with the typewriter captions. It has not changed. And there are not so many museums that look like that. So why merge art in historical spaces or something that is contemporary with something that is old? The whole idea is, how many times would you go visit a museum? Once, twice, unless you're researching something or this is your domain. But as a public or regular audience, you will not go 10 times. But if this museum has new life through art or through design or anything that talks to you today, then you will go. So the whole idea is breathing in new life into those spaces through art, narrating a story but in a different way every time. So showing new perspectives, creating cultural dialogues between the old and the new, between the artists and the space. And of course, rehabilitating those sites. In the case of Egypt, we have worked on so many things by creating public and private partnerships. We were able to get in-kind donations such as lighting and different things that would help those spaces. So as I mentioned before, Egypt has so many different layers and so many different civilizations. I mean, starting with prehistoric, we have ancient Egypt, Greco-Roman, Ottoman. There are so many layers. So there's an abundance of things you can do. So for the art people, site-specific curation could be tricky. It's very interesting, not easy, because you have to take so many things into consideration. You have to take into consideration the architectural dynamics of the space, how you're going to curate such an exhibition, how you're going to position the art to make sure that you don't touch the space, if it's an indoor space, and of course, outdoor is the same. The curatorial narrative is very important when you have a transcendence or show a certain link between the past and the present. And of course, you have to make sure that the artists have the freedom to do what they want to do, to express themselves the way they want. So again, at the core of what we do is democratizing art. Again, as I was saying, as a regular person in Egypt, you cannot go to these amazing museums or exhibitions. It's all private spaces. So it's really belongs to a certain elite that would go to a private gallery, for instance. So what we do is real social engagement. The core is to democratize art, so we are in spaces that are open to the public. They're non-ticketed exhibitions, and this is one of the reasons why we have been patroned by the UNESCO since 2019. Again, another part of the patronage is that our mission aligns with the 2005 Convention of the UNESCO for the protection and promotion of the diversity of cultural expressions. We are also created these public and private partnerships to be able to do these things in those spaces. We need the government on our side. Of course, they are honorary patronages, therefore the government does not help financially. I must say that we rent the spaces. I can claim that I rent the pyramids. And we're an all-woman team, so for a lot of people, they're surprised because even we have 2 architects on the team, and they're all women working with 150 workers under their command. And this is something that everyone feels is a bit strange, but I must say that no man is able to survive more than 1 month with us. So we're an all-woman team. These are some of the examples of the different outreach programs we do. So we work with children, school children from public schools in Egypt, as well as young boys and girls from different universities through an art guide program that we fund. So they are not volunteers, they actually get paid an honorarium. They get training on the importance and awareness of the heritage sites we have. They also get a certificate by the UNESCO. So they're workshops that we do in tandem with the UNESCO. Another important thing is that we have free public lectures. So when we invite different people from around the world to give free public lectures that are accessible by anyone, and they're also online. So we've had people from Christie's before, the director of Meta, that were actually one of our partners. We had different Instagram filters in one of our exhibitions. We have artists that come from around the world. For those that are into NFTs, we participated at VCon, and Andy Krainek, the president of VFriends, was also one of our speakers, and they exhibited with us. So we actually had NFTs in Egypt. So again, just to summarize the journey of Egyptian art, it started at, I think it's the most beautiful museum in the world, this 1902 building. And I must say that when we did the exhibition in 2017, it was not a listed building at that time. So by bringing in people from around the world. By doing so, I must say that the lighting in this, the main hall, is all done by the companies that supported and gave in-kind donations. The lighting company is the same company that worked on the Torino Museum. And it was incredible because we brought in people from around the world. And of course, everyone was opposed at the beginning. Who's this crazy girl? What do you mean? What is contemporary art? And why in the walls of this incredible museum? And through that, this also created awareness, and people saw the beauty of this museum and how important it is to preserve. And now it is a listed building, so no one can touch this beautiful space. So we'll see not all antiquities are moving out of the Egyptian museum, the old one. So by doing that, that was in 2017, and then we went a bit bigger to the palace of Prince Muhammad Ali Tawfiq, who was a patron of the arts and had a private museum. I'm talking before the 50s. And he would also do a lot of public work because he would open the doors of his beautiful palace to the public and make an orchestra so that people can benefit from that for free, of course. And then came Reimagine Narratives, which was a very difficult one because this is the longest lived-in street in Egypt. It's over 1,000 years old, and people like you and me live in heritage houses. And some of the people didn't even know the importance of this incredible street. So we did 4 different buildings on that street. And so, yes, art can change society because there are so many anecdotes. One of them is the director of this beautiful mosque. So we were the first people to put art in a mosque, was opposed to us. He's like a bunch of women coming to me and telling me, okay, we're going to put arts here. What is art? Of course not. And then he met this incredible Egyptian artist that did her studied Islamic art and architecture, and she's from Coptic descendants, so she's Christian. And this was so strange to him. He was so perplexed that he fell in love with her work, and then the whole space was filled with beautiful artwork. So for these 3 exhibitions, it was only Egyptian artists. And in 2019, one of the artists who's Tunisian was like, Nadine, why aren't you including artists from around the world? I'm more Egyptian than all of these artists. So I'll just show you a small video. 2016, I decided to take over the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir. It was a crazy idea because I was like this crazy girl that went up to the minister and told him, look, I believe that I can create this public-private partnership and bring in collectors from all over the world, also give back to the heritage site. It was a huge success, and we had media coverage from around the world. Year on year, this initiative started growing. So came the Manial Palace, where we took over the entire palace. We had to redo the walkways, repaint so many spaces, open up the private museum, which was intended by Prince Muhammad Ali Tawfiq as a private museum, where he had his own collection of artwork and so many other things. Then came Giza Street with more work with the communities that live around us. So we've created something called Gardens of Heritage, along with the UNESCO, because at the end of the day, we come in for a month, but they are here forever. So in 2019, 2020 came. COVID was everywhere. The world stopped. Not in Egypt. We only had 2 weeks off, and then we believed that COVID doesn't exist. But it was a great thing for me, especially because I decided to take on an online course with Dr. Peter Dermanuelian here. And even though I go to the pyramids very often, I must say I learned so much. There are so many things to talk about, so many layers, so many things to discover. So it was an eye-opener for me. I was like, okay, I did all these crazy exhibitions. They were all so challenging. Historic Cairo, by the way, was the most challenging one because it is a very, very highly populated street in Egypt. Thousands and thousands of people. And we worked with the entire street, with the whole community. As you see, we even did an open-air theater for all the public to come. And we're there for a year. They're there for a lifetime. So it was important to tell them that what we're doing is important, the lighting that we're giving to these spaces, whatever we do to rehabilitate those sites that they have to preserve. So this as well is very important to be able to sustain whatever we do. So after taking this online course, I said, okay, I'm ready to take on the pyramids. And the pyramids, as everyone knows, it's 4,500 years old. It's a monument that everyone on the face of the earth knows. It's a symbol, I think it's a symbol of hope to humanity, because when you think about it, there were wars, pandemics, and it's still there. I mean, even now, we were just discussing how the urban society is crawling closer to the pyramids, but the pyramids are still there. No matter what, you know, you just gaze at the pyramids and you say, my God, this is humanity. And this does belong to the world. So it was unfair to say, okay, we'll just do it for Egyptian artists. So this is when we decided to open it up to the whole world. So the idea of Forever is Now, or creating something that would be inclusive to everyone, any nationality, any background, could exhibit at the foot of the pyramids. I must say that there were lots of challenges, but mainly so Cultivator was born in 2020 to include everything and include the rest of the world. And it's a multidisciplinary consultancy that works with different disciplines. Because again, I am a true believer that you cannot really segregate the creative sector. You cannot say that artists are not influenced by heritage, and a designer is not influenced by heritage, and that film is not into art, because now when you see art, you have film, you have music, you have so many different cultural expressions. So you cannot really segregate all of that. And of course, fashion. So Forever is Now, the first edition was in 2021. The first artist I approached was JR. Maybe some of you would know him in the US because he also does a lot of documentaries. He did one with Robert De Niro. He is also a social artist. He believes in public art and participatory art. So I saw his work at the Louvre in Paris with the glass pyramid. And we had the director of the Louvre on our board. So I asked her to email him and tell him, look, this Art d'Egypte cultivator that we support wants you to participate. Of course, he didn't answer the email. He thought it was a spam. He thought it was a joke. He's like, oh, these people are crazy. What do you mean? I'm an artist and they're inviting me to do something at the pyramids. It's a joke. So she insisted, and finally he answered, and he's like, my God, this is a dream come true. Of course, I'll be your artist, and of course, this is something that I would never dream of doing. So JR was our first artist here with this artwork here. And then we had the second edition. But what we noticed is that from the first edition, the curatorial concept was mainly a dialogue between the artist and the heritage site. And then it shifted because we never thought we would have 500,000 visitors in 2 weeks. It went viral with a public that doesn't know what contemporary art is. So to put more context, it's not LA where you have museums of contemporary art. It's Egypt where this doesn't exist, to see public art and to see this type of art. And of course, at the beginning, archaeologists were really opposed. It took time, and actually with the help of Mark Lenner, an American archaeologist that understands contemporary art, helped me convince the other archaeologists that this is something that would work and that it is a meaningful curatorial pairing. So edition 2 and 3 were completely different because we created, instead of a dialogue, a trialogue between the audience, the artwork, and this civilization. So that was a completely different curatorial direction, to include the audience as part of it. Because what we saw was organic. People would make songs, make a choreography. It really went viral, especially the first edition, because it was very strange. So bringing all these artists with different disciplines from around the world to have this cross-cultural dialogue. So Forever is Now 4 is at the Pyramids now until the 16th of November. And the curatorial direction this year was really inspired by archaeologists, because we owe them so much through archaeology and through excavations. You discover so many things. It's endless, really. I mean, recently in the Khufu's pyramid, they discovered a new tunnel. We were just discussing this morning with Peter how many things, how much do we know? There's so much we don't know. There's so much unveiling that happens every year. So this year we have 12 artists from the UK, France, Canada, Spain, South Africa, Korea, India, Egypt, Italy. So these are the incredible installations, and all of them tell a story, and all of them are site-specific installations. So the curatorial direction this year was really turning artists into archaeologists, to see beyond the obvious, to see something interesting in the mundane. So you can see here the different installations. Frederica Di Carlo, for instance, is very interesting because I always say that you narrate ancient Egypt through the lens of contemporary artists. And she literally did lens here. This is an installation with lens, and you can see the pyramid through the lens. These are all done on site. And of course, as you see, each artist kind of has a certain perspective with the pyramids. So they actually choose the different locations. We'll come to that a bit later. But Jean-Marie Apriou also had the support of archaeologists, because he did this with, he wanted to recreate the mud bricks and how they would do that. And he was like, my God, it's drying up so fast. He had to do it like 5 times. And at the end, he was panicking that he wouldn't make it to the opening. Nasia Iglesias is a Greek artist, and this is a kinetic artwork. So it's really a gateway to the afterlife. So you walk through this, and it's a piece that moves. It's a kinetic artwork. Chris Levine is also fascinated with the mathematics and everything that has to do with the proportions of the pyramids. So he's the one that shows this angle where the pyramids kind of align. Then I said, okay, look, I'm prepared to take on the pyramids. The artist becomes the translator of the past into the language of the present.
Art was invented in ancient Egypt your name will be registered in history.
And such an honor to have a piece, of my work in front of one of the most powerful sculptures of the pyramids in the world. Incredible.
Forever is now, it's just open. It's just this idea of like, you leave your mark and whether it remains or not, you left it, it's forever.
Such a blessing, and it's so surreal to be able to participate and have my artwork next to these like massive pieces in the world. This is the most wonderful scenery I ever seen in my life.
I truly believe that art is a message of hope and peace to humanity. It's a safe space where everyone meets, and especially in such a powerful exhibition and message. This is such a strong statement in itself. This year, we're thrilled because our family is growing.
For me to bring the lotus from India into Egypt is very significant because we're talking about thousands of years of civilization and art and culture.
The first thing that I thought is I have to go to the pyramids. I had been to the pyramids as a child, and coming on site, it really raised the questions about what is the monument of the future? What does it mean in the humanity drive from the past going into the future?
The ancient Egyptian civilization has influenced artists throughout history that belongs to everyone, that we want to share with the whole world. It feels that this is a new beginning, a third shift. So, of course, anything great comes with challenges. So, of course, there's a lot of challenges while curating these site-specific exhibitions, because they're literally site-specific. So these artists are producing the artwork for those specific exhibitions in a certain way, with a certain perspective, with the pyramids. There are so many challenges logistically. We have only 10 days, so the government grants us 10 days, 24 hours to make these huge installations that you see. And of course, it is very important to take care of the space. It's a UNESCO heritage site, so I can't go drilling and we can't dig because that would be a big problem. So we create like a protection layer, and we get a bed of sand. So we actually get trucks of sand from outside the pyramids. So you can see under all the installations like at least a 50 or a 1 meter sand bed, and then the installations are placed. We have cement bases, of course, because the structures are huge, that we cover with sand. The lighting, there's no lighting, there's no electricity, so we do this from scratch. And of course, the pharaohs are sometimes upset. This year we had a 4-day sandstorm, a full-on sandstorm. One of my team members had to wear swimming goggles to protect her eyes. But I guess they just gave us something to challenge us, and then they were nice again, and we had a great opening. So it is also important because we use the help of historians, archaeologists. One of our artists, Carol Furman, who's a hyperrealist, wanted to do the statue of Hathor, and she didn't know the skin tone of the pharaohs. So we put her in touch with Dr. Zahi Hawes to send her all the information, all the books that she would get to read. So it's also very research-based. We give them a lot of information from the UNESCO as well. So there are so many challenges. And of course, we have to make sure that nothing is culturally sensitive and historically correct. So basically, this is what we do with the pyramids. And of course, since we have guests that come in from around the world, we try to give them an exposure to different layers of history in Egypt. And I have here a sample of one of the things we do. So we have parallel exhibitions or collateral exhibitions. Again, I don't really like white cubes. So the youngest space I work with is 100 years old. And this is downtown Cairo, so it's the heart of Cairo. Some people would know what Tahrir Square is, so this is around Tahrir Square. This is an old Art Deco cinema that was inaugurated in the 1930s and didn't change much. So you see it's all Art Deco with flickering lights and red velvet seats. And I like it that way. So we do these pop-up exhibitions downtown in an old juice bar or in an old factory. So we repurpose these spaces, giving a voice to 100 Egyptian artists every year with different projects. And one of the projects that I really like is the Rebirth Project, which are the ancient gods. So this is another way of working with young artists, is that every year we have a different ancient god that is done. So the sculpture is actually done by a sculptor, and it's created in resin and then given to a number of artists for them to create the piece the way they want, to translate it in their own words. So the first one was the Tawarit goddess. So she's the goddess of fertility and childbirth. The Bastet, which a lot of people like, we're known for the cat, the goddess of protection and motherhood, and Horus, the god of kingship and the sky, and Khifri, which is a sample I have at the back here. It's the scarab that everyone knows, the god of creation and rebirth and transformation. So this is one of the installations we did with the artists that worked on the Khifri. So again, the magic happens at the pyramids. In 2021, we had the American artist Gisela Colon that worked on a huge installation right in front of the Sphinx, which was the sun Ra. And we had a collaboration with Dior for the Lady Dior art bag. So that's why, again, a lot of artists work with different brands. And this is a good way of also supporting different initiatives. So that was the Lady Art bag. It was a Forever Is Now bag that was unveiled at the pyramids at our exhibition. And then a couple of years later, the CEO of Louis Vuitton, the CEO of Dior, because he was there at our opening, loved the pyramids. He hadn't been, it was his first time, and said, okay, guys, we're going to do with you the fashion show of Dior. So that was an iconic fashion show at the pyramids. And another anecdote is that he met Pharrell Williams at our event and then took Pharrell to be the head designer of Louis Vuitton years later. So we do different destination projects. So again, to help the creative sector and the artists in Egypt, we try to convince developers to do different symposiums using art instead of putting random signages on their roundabouts. And then we also worked with upcycled art, also through art showing that, or giving awareness on sustainability and environment. So this is something we did for COP27, which is the climate change conference. And that was also with the support of Michael Bloomberg, who was also one of our attendees, and through Bloomberg Philanthropies worked with us on COP27. And as I said before, all creatives are influenced by heritage. So we have also infused art and design with heritage, fashion with heritage. This is an artwork and a design piece by Cristian Pellizzari, an Italian artist in historic Cairo at the Citadel. So different international projects. Again, this is something that is, I think, a great achievement, because this last June, we were the first contemporary art exhibition to take place at the Acropolis Museum's gardens. This is an exhibition that is called Tale of Two Cities, which shows the cultural ties between Athens and Alexandria, my hometown. And on our board, we have Calliope Papacosta, who's an incredible archaeologist that has been living in Alexandria for the past 20 years. And you can see, I invite you all to go tonight and watch Netflix documentary In the Making of a God. She's the one in the documentary. And she's actually looking for the tomb of Alexander the Great. And we treated our guests to the excavation site, and they actually saw the street, the first King Street that Alexander founded when he did Alexandria, because it did not exist before. And I must say, in Egypt, when you tell an Alexandrian, "Are you Egyptian?" we say, "No, I'm from Alexandria." So it's like a different passport. I don't know why we do that, but we all do that. But it's an incredible project, and it really shows the ties. Here, that is the gardens of the Acropolis Museum. We had Alexandrian and Athenian artists. And the reciprocal exhibition took place in Alexandria at the iconic Library of Alexandria, also with Athenian and Alexandrian artists. Of course, we do different consultancies for other countries as well, because now a lot of governments are seeing the importance of cultural activities and cultural promotion. So part of our culture trip in Athens was also the Benaki Museum, which is a Greek family from Alexandria, and they have a beautiful collection. And the Cavafy Archives with the Onassis Foundation. Cavafy was a Greek poet that also lived in Alexandria, and they renovated his house in Alexandria. And different projects in Switzerland, in Pictet in Zurich, Sonamaco, Mexico, Art Genève, and Abu Dhabi Art. And something that is also really important for the people from the art world here is that Beaux-Arts in Egypt was inaugurated in 1908, before a lot of countries. So imagine, 1908 was the inauguration of fine arts in Egypt. This is a family, Muhammad and Ifat Negi, they're siblings. And Muhammad Negi was the first Egyptian dean of Beaux-Arts, because before him was either French or Italian deans. And he was really the man behind the folk Egyptian art movement. So even at that time, in the 30s is where he flourished. He worked with Claude Monet as well. It was very important to use art also as a tool of creating these cultural bridges between different countries. And for the people that have to do with the business world and economy, there's a creative sector pegged with anything cultural. So at the beginning, when we started this, everyone was like, okay, these art things are silly, they're cultural, how would they impact the economy? But in reality, they do. We've managed to create residency programs in different factories, and actually a lot of the international artists started producing in local Egyptian companies. And one example is Carol Furman. She was so happy with the company that she did all the installations at the Venice Biennale with the same Egyptian company. So it's a way of bringing in money to support even local factories. Another important thing is, as I mentioned, we do culture trips. So people come, these collectors that come in from around the world, they pay hotels, they come and spend at least a week in Egypt, they buy things. So you have at least Every year we have over 350 international guests. So this is also incredible, as well as the PR value, because, I mean, media talks about it. So it's also, it creates this creative economy around it. Oops, sorry, I skipped. So these are some of our attendees. We're hoping Angela Missoni came more than once, so maybe she'll do something soon with us. So these are people from different sectors, from the film industry, businessmen, people from the fashion world, people from royal families. These are all the types of people that attend on our culture trips or on our 4-day VIP program. And of course, we went digital. It helped a lot. So we're on Bloomberg Connects and of course, Google Arts and Culture. We have a podcast that we invite different people from around the world. So it's called Cultural Conversations that you can find. And the impact that we've created in 8 years was really incredible. Sometimes when we look at it, we can't imagine that we actually managed to do that. We had over 1 billion views. So things go viral, people talk about it, press talks about it. We had virtual exhibitions before. This is, by the way, the sun. This is Gisela Colon's work. And of course, securing in-kind donations for the spaces we work in. The press is all organic. We can't afford a PR agency, so this happens organically. The press follows us everywhere, and it's insane because it's not only like the art newspaper or things that are just about art, but you have mainstream press, you have Architecture Digest, CNN. It really goes viral. All of this is organic PR every year. I mean, this year it's kind of exploding as well until now. Like every day someone sends me a new article. And that's basically it. This is us and what we've been doing. Thank you for listening.